Good day everyone, my name is Destiny Ajata. I'm a motion designer, video editor, as well as a 3D artist. I've been into this space for about 8 years now. I've been doing 3D for 8 years. Motion designer, video editing, more like 5 years now. And I've been asked to make this video for the community. Someone earlier asked about how we can make our systems faster, how we can bring out the most in terms of performance out of our systems, especially for the lower end systems, as most of us that are starting out in the creative space might not necessarily be able to afford the Alienwares or the MacBook Pros and so on and so forth. So yeah, it is still possible for you to create excellent and good work even on the potato system. We just have to try and see how you can maximize the performance, which is why we're making this video today. Alright, so this system I'm recording this video on is not the highest end of system, and it's a perfect example to show that this is possible even on the lowest end of systems. I think the only upgrades that has been made to this system is changing the RAM from 4 gig to 8 gig. So it's an AMD processor, 4 cores, or basically it's 2 cores, 2 compute cores, and then I believe 2 graphics cores or whatever. But usually it's just 2 cores that are important when using, that is for this particular CPU. I found these other 2 cores are not necessarily something I can have control over, which I'll explain later on in the video. Windows 10, 64 bits, x64. And of course, I think an added plus for this system would be that it has about 1 terabyte of disk space, which I am almost used up. But let's move on. All of this will make sense and will add to my point later on. Alright, so first of all, we have startup applications. Now, startup applications simply means you want to make sure that unnecessary applications are not starting up once you boot your system. So you can see on my task manager here, shortcut for that will be Ctrl-Shift-ESC to go to your task manager. I will go to startup applications, startup here, and I'll make sure that anything I don't need is disabled. You can see I've disabled almost everything apart from my media, my Realtek HD audio manager. But anything that you don't think is necessary, please disable it, especially custom apps that you have installed or you don't necessarily use every time, but for some reason can start up here. You want to make sure that they are disabled so they don't start up with the system. The next one you have is your background applications. You would want to go to settings and then just type background. Before you're done, it pops up, click on it, background apps, and what you want to do here is you want to make sure that it is off, except if you need it on for some specific reason. But if you have apps running in the background, your system would have to dedicate some of its resources to those apps running in the background. And especially if you are running heavy softwares, you want your system to prioritize those softwares rather than some background apps. So I do recommend turning this off, except if you have to leave it on. That's number 2. And then of course, this brings us to the next one, which is that you have to install any unused softwares. It's important because the more softwares you have installed that you don't use, the more space to take on your system, and that's to some extent might slow down your system. So you don't want to uninstall anything that you're not using. Which brings us to our next point, which is that you can also free up your hard drive space, which now makes this to make sense. So this is not good. I only have 34 gigs of 1 terabyte. But it's buttresses my point. Whilst this is not going to make your system astronomically fast, it does help a little bit. So my system is still running, at least, right? I do recommend making sure you done this. You reduce the size of your drive, or rather you free up your hard drive space or used files, of course. All right, so we're moving on to the more technical tips I have for you today. And before we move further, I would like you to have a File Explorer tab opened, and you would have to do this because some of these options might not necessarily be visible to everyone. So I'll do it again. You just open the File Explorer tab and then come to View right here, and then Options. Click on Options, and then on that folder Options, you want to click on View and scroll down until you reach this place, Hidden Files and Folders, and make sure you have Show Hidden Files, Folders and Drives. Make sure you have it ticked and not the opposite, which is Don't Show. So you want to have them shown. I have them shown already, but if you didn't, you'll see this Apply button becomes active, and you can click on it and then click OK, and now we're good to go. So first of all is that we want to delete our temporary files. How do we do that? We have two different types of temp files. I'll show you both of them. One is more heavy than the other, but here's a good rule of thumb on how to reach them. If you click on Windows and R on your keyboard, press Windows R on your keyboard, you get this run tag, and then you can easily type whatever you want. You just want to type temp and click on OK, and then it will bring up a window. So these are temporary files that your system usually creates, and you can easily just select everything and delete them. Make sure you're in this PC Windows and temp. So under your C drive, let's do it like that. So on your C drive, just go to Windows and then temp right down here. Yeah, okay. And then everything inside, you can just Control A and delete, and it's should do that. So doing this can also free up some space. You obviously want to do this as much as you can, like I said. Okay, so that is the first thing. You want to delete everything inside this Windows stem. As you can see, okay, it's done deleting. Not everything got deleted, that's fine. Chances are some of these files will get regenerated again, so you'd have to delete as much as you can. Obviously not necessarily every day. These files are useful files because in case your system crashes or something, this is a log file. You can easily come here and check out the logs and so on and so forth. So that is number one. Number two would be the second type of temp files. But before we go to the second type of temp files, I want to talk to you about prefetch files. Simple, Windows R, and then the same thing, prefetch. Prefetch. Click on it, and it should give us a window called prefetch. Now you can do the same thing, Control A, and then delete. Now while it's deleting, let me explain what's happening here. But it's very really understand, you know, the concept of prefetch, so you don't just delete every time, because deleting prefetch files actually makes your system slow the next time you boot it, or rather it makes your system booting slow the next time you boot it. It doesn't make your system slow, rather, I'm sorry about that, but the next time you boot, it's not going to boot as fast as normal. Because what prefetch files does is that it tries to create all these caches, files, and so on based on these softwares that you usually open, especially the ones located on your desktop. And so what it does is it creates these folders so that whenever you click on an icon to open the software, it opens faster. So that is the usefulness of these prefetch files. And usually the prefetch files on your system have kind of like a limit. And so after a number of prefetch files, it automatically recycles itself. What's a good rule of thumb, you know, delete it once in a while. You don't want to do this every week, you know, you can do it once in a month or something like that. Especially if you're someone that, you know, switches from softwares and you don't stay in one software. It's good that you know, delete it once in a while, but not every time. If not, you have to wait a long time for your system to boot every time startup. The good thing about it though is that your system runs faster because it doesn't have to account for each prefetch every time. So the first time it boots slowly, but after that it's a bit faster, and your overall system is faster. Overall, it's faster. So that is your prefetch, which brings me to my next point. If you notice, my desktop is quite empty. Now this is overkill, as on a normal day I do have desktop icons on my system, but for this video I intentionally removed them to buttress my point. Now I don't really have much icons on my desktop, alright, which is my point. You don't want to have a lot of icons and a lot of, you know, folders, files and all of that on your desktop, as it could slow your system down too. It has to do with prefetch as well, because one of the things that Windows does is that it looks at your softwares that you have installed, and of course the shortcuts on the desktop, and it tries to create prefetches of those. So the more stuff you have in your desktop, the slower it can get at times. So you would want to have that in mind. Try to keep your desktop as clean as possible, and only keep icons that you actually use on your desktop. Anytime you want to save a PNG or a JPEG or a video or whatever, please don't save it to your desktop. Save it to a folder that is not in your desktop, right? This will help a lot. I look at many people's desktops and it's just a mess. It's rowdy. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that your desktop is as clean as possible. And then finally, we want to talk about the main elephant when it comes to these kind of things in the room, which is temp itself. If I click on Windows R once again and I go to this time around, I'm typing temp with percentage. So right here, temp with this percentage sign at the edges, and just click on OK. Now these files I have been deleting are files created by the Windows OS itself for the most part. This particular temp folder is for the files created by all the softwares that you are running. For the most part, not all softwares create this kind of temporary files, but some do. At least I know that After Effects by default its cache is being stored in the temp folder, and so you would want to delete these folders as much as you possibly can, because they are temporary folders. If you delete them, your system will not, you know, die or something. You know, it's harmless to delete them, except if you specifically are using them for caches and all of this kind of stuff. But at least me, I am an After Effects user, and I know that After Effects usually has caches, and they are not forgiving with their cache. So you can be on a project and, you know, in hours you have about, you know, 20 to 30 gigs worth of caches, and you might not necessarily be using them. This applies for some other softwares, and so you just want to Control A, select all of them and hit delete. So once you do that, it deletes. And of course, this will also help to save some space. As you can see, 1 gig is being deleted. The reason why these numbers are not looking astronomically huge is because I do this on a regular basis. For someone who has never done it before, you are going to experience a massive boost in your disk space, number one, and in your performance, especially if you use softwares that do keep temporary files stored right here. The next tip, Windows Update. No, I'm not talking about updating your Windows, although I'll get into that shortly. But sometimes when you update your Windows, there are update files that remain. So you want to go to your this PC, your C drive, and you want to enter Windows, and then you want to go to software distribution now. Yeah, software distribution, and then download. this is where your Windows update files are being stored. Control A, or select everything, delete. Simple and short. Next up on the list is disk cleanup. Simple, you just come to your Start, Windows Start, and click on disk cleanup. You search for it and it should come up. You can also use Windows R for that as well. And when it comes up, it begins to scan, your Windows, looking for things that it can clean up. And when it is done, it will bring out a window for you, and you can choose what to clean up. So we'll just wait for it. Alright, so this cleanup has just finished scanning the files, and you can see that you can use this cleanup to free up about 7 gigs approximately per space. And you want to check and make sure that you are not deleting any important things. So I like to make sure that my downloads is not actually selected, which I feel like is the most important setting. If you select this, everything in your downloads folder will get deleted. So make sure this is not checked. Every other thing can be checked. Your thumbnails, temporary files, recycle bin, and so on and so forth. This is not actually deleting your Windows Defender antivirus, rather it's deleting some cache files or something like that. So don't panic, you're not deleting Windows Defender if you do this. It's just some caches and all of that. And then just click on OK, delete files, and that will delete. So while that is going on, I'll just quickly bring us to the next point, which is defragmenting your hard drive. Simple, you just come to your Windows Start and click on defrag, and it should bring up defragment and optimize drive. Enter, click on it, and it should load. And so what this does is self-explanatory: defragments your hard drive. And depending on if you have never done this before, if you have, it can make a huge difference. Alright, you can see my hard drive has 1% fragmented, which is actually rare because I do this every time, although I've not done this in a while. But it's good, it's very good. I like it because at least it can show, for this example, usually if your device is not fragmented, it just shows you 0%, which is good. So what you want to do in this place is you want to click on optimize, and once you click on it, it will start defragmenting your hard drive. Of course, you can also do this automatically, where it's to create a schedule of that, and then it's defragment. For the sake of this video, I'll stop this now and do this after the video. So that is this. This cleanup usually takes a bit of time, so you have to wait for it. So just let this be running in the background. Alright, I will move to the next point. Alright, so we're done with the technical stuff, at least for the meantime anyways. What we just finished talking about was actually deleting files that might impede on your system speed. Now we want to talk on how to actually tell your system to give your software a bit more juice, if you know what I mean, so they can run a bit faster, and actually monitor, and see what is taking up processor speed and those kind of things. And for that, we'll quickly go to Task Manager. But for that, what we want to do here, first of all, let me open a software quickly. Let's see, PowerPoint. Yes, let's see, PowerPoint. What we want to do is, see it's opening, we want to go to details, and then we want to make sure that we are sorting by memory. By default, it may maybe be sorted by name. You want to make sure this is sorted by memory. If you cannot see this, memory active private working set, you want to go right click on any of these columns and then select columns, and then you can choose which column you want to show here. And the one we are really concerned about is memory active private working set. Let's click on this, press OK, and then now it should show up. And then just click on this until it goes from biggest number down to smallest number. The one on top is the one that is carrying the most amount of your RAM, and so you should be aware of it. Now, if something is up here, maybe like this now, and you are not using the software at the moment, and it is carrying so much space, you might want to, delete that process. Deleting it is not necessarily deleting the software from your system, it's just closing the app, because some things do run in the background and you're not even aware. So as you can see, I currently have PowerPoint open now, and you can see this PowerPoint.exe. So usually this don't really go by their software names. They might have some code name or whatever, but you won't know them like the icons, and the names are very, very close to the actual names. So after making sure this is sorted by largest to smallest amount of memory, I want to go to PowerPoint, click on PowerPoint.exe, right click on it, set priority, and then above normal, change priority. What this does is that it tells your system to give a bit more juice, in terms of RAM. It tells your RAM to allocate a bit more memory to set software, whatever software you actually apply this setting to. Please do not do this for all the softwares you are running. You should see a significant amount of improvement if you have enough RAM to play with, alright, and you don't have a lot of systems running, because by default normal kind of caps the memory that is being allocated to this particular software. Above normal will do that. Now my PowerPoint is not necessarily doing some heavy task, right? But assume you have a software, for example After Effects or some 3D rendering software, you will notice a very, very significant impact when you are doing something like rendering or exporting, or maybe effects or something like that. You'll definitely notice a difference, like allocating a bit more memory. Please don't put this on real time, because it might freeze up your system. High, you can. I've noticed that above normal is where I usually see more significant increase in performance. High or real time might just make your system slow, because it's trying to allocate everything into that one software and it starts neglecting core processes. So please, I think the ISC should be above normal. And then the second thing is your affinity. Now I earlier said I only have 2 cores that I use for my CPU, and if I said that in this recording or the other recording or whatever, you can decide. This is useful for people who have a lot of cores, and you can decide to allocate some cores to some particular systems, and then, or rather softwares, and then some other cores to some other softwares. So this helps to balance things out, so 2 softwares are not dragging for the same amount of cores, especially if they are open simultaneously. So that is that for cores. And of course, you want to make sure that anything that you are not using here will not contain the highest amount. So if there's something here that is overly high or you are not using, and it's an app you install, not a Windows app, you can easily delete. I can also come here to show you how to delete. You can just click on whatever you want and end task, end process. And that was PowerPoint. So PowerPoint deleted, and you should notice significant shifts in performance, or minute depending on your case. So that is it for action points. The others are just a bit of points I want you to consider if it might actually help. Number 1 is check for malware. Sometimes this might be because there is either bloatware or some files or whatever running in the background, of course malware, that are intentionally slowing down your system. So you want to maybe run a scan, use an antivirus, and check it out, make sure that there's nothing like that in your system bogging down its performance. The next will be beware of the kind of antivirus you use. Beware of the kind of antivirus you use. You want to make sure that I would, although this is I'm saying this very, very lightly, so please, some people have different takes on this. I don't use antivirus. I feel like Windows Defender is enough for me, and so I just use that instead. I had discovered in my experience of using antivirus that a lot of the times some of these antivirus are actually what slows systems down. So maybe point number one would be temporarily delete your antivirus and see if that makes a difference, because I have done this on a lot of people's systems, and once I delete the antivirus, the system starts flying. So you might want to check if your antivirus is actually causing your system to slow down. Trust me, or rather don't trust me, trust Windows. All right, Windows Defender is good enough for most of the tasks in terms of protecting you from malware, as long as you keep it on and as long as you don't go to websites where you are likely to get infected. And then make sure your computer isn't heating up. Sometimes when your computer heats up, your CPU starts to throttle, and it might want to bring down its performance so that it doesn't keep heating up. So you want to make sure that your system is always having a good enough temperature. Obviously your system will never be cold as long as it's on, but you want to make sure that your system is in a ventilated environment, or is having some source of cooling, maybe a fan next to it if it comes to that, or just don't keep it in a environment that is not ventilated. You might also want to make sure that the outlets, if it's a laptop, it's free. So you want to check your fans, make sure they're working, make sure it's not blocked, and of course make sure where you put your system, nothing is blocking that vent from venting out air. And then after doing all this, if all of this doesn't work, you might want to update your drivers. Sometimes the simple driver updates might make all the difference. I remember when my system was so bad, new softwares were coming out, I couldn't install them. They wouldn't work on my system. They wouldn't run smoothly, or they wouldn't even install. But then I updated my drivers, and now I can install them. So you should update your drivers if you haven't done so. I'm not going to show you how to, because this is different for each system. Intel has theirs, AMD has theirs, Lenovo, Dell, and all. They have their different drivers. So you want to go to your system's website and check out their driver. The same thing for your GPU, if you have one. I have this little GPU here, 512 MB VRAM. So you want to go to their website. I went to AMD's website because that is my GPU/CPU's provider's website. I went there and I got to update the drivers from there. So the same thing if you are using an NVIDIA, go to NVIDIA's website. And of course, Dell, Lenovo, Acer, and so on, go to their respective websites, Intel as well, and you'll see the drivers for either it's the software or whatever. You see all the drivers there. Finally, you might want to update your operating system. Some of us don't update our Windows. I'm currently using a Windows 10, and of course the updates for Windows 10 support for Windows 10 ended October. But prior to that, you could have been updating your Windows. Because if you're on Windows 11 at the moment, then fine, you can update your Windows, and you should see it helps security reasons as well. And of course, they keep updating and optimizing Windows to give you better performance. So please update your Windows. You should see better results. And that would be it. Final word. By themselves, individually, you might not necessarily see, notice anything, faster about your system. But when you do some of these things together, then you start seeing significant impact. You start seeing significant performance increase with your system. So I could recommend, anything that has been said in this video you haven't done, try it and see how it's going to work. I believe if you try like 5 of these tips together, you should see significant impact in your system. I think the main thing for everyone I have seen so far is just remove everything that bogs down the system. My number one would be an antivirus. You should have any form of antivirus. Just get rid of it for like 1 week, make sure you don't connect anything from anyone's flash drive. Stick to Windows Defender, see how it goes. If it's not, you can revert back to your antivirus, there's no problem, and so on and so forth. So I believe for whoever asked that question, as well as any other person watching this video now, you should be able to get to your system, optimize it, and get the most out of your system. I have been Destiny, and thanks for watching the video. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment on what you want us to do next, and try to make it done. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you very much.